Lesson 11 is over dividing rational numbers. So we skipped lesson 10. 11.1 says, consider the equation negative 27 times a number equals negative 35. So without solving that problem, would the solution to the equation be positive or negative? It would be positive. Number 2 says, are either of these two numbers solutions to the equation? So we know this one would be the solution because it's positive. So 35/27 times negative 27 would give you negative 35. On 11.2, you're just finding the missing values in the equations. So on A, it says negative 3 times 4 is what? Negative 12. B, 3 times what is positive 12? I'm sorry, negative 3 times what is positive 12? Be negative 4. 3 times what number equals positive 12? Be positive 4. What number times negative 4 is positive 12? Negative 3. And then E says, what number times positive 4 is negative 12? That would also be negative 3. Number 2 wants you to rewrite the unknown factor problems as division problems. And we don't have a number here, so we can't actually write the division problem without the answer. You can, but it'd be unknown divided by negative 3 equals 4. Or unknown divided by 4 equals negative 3. But since we don't have the number that we can divide by, we don't need to write an equation for this one. So on B, negative 3 times a number equals positive 12. So your division would be 12 divided by negative 3. And that gives you your unknown number, which is negative 4. C, 3 times a number equals positive 12. So your division would be 12 divided by positive 3 equals your unknown number. D, positive 12 divided by negative 4 is your unknown number. And E is negative 12 divided by positive 4 equals your unknown number. On 3, it says complete the sentences and be prepared to explain your reasoning. A, the sign of a positive number divided by a positive number is always positive. B, the sign of a positive number divided by a negative number is always negative. C, the sign of a negative number divided by a positive number is always negative. And D, the sign of a negative number divided by a negative number is always positive. So it's just like multiplication. If the two numbers have the same sign, your answer is going to be positive. If the signs are different, your answer will be negative. So on number 4, it says, Han and Claire walk towards each other at a constant rate. They meet up and continue past each other in opposite directions. We will call the position where they meet up 0 feet and the time when they meet up 0 seconds. Okay, so let's think about Han first. So his velocity is 4 feet per second, and velocity tells me direction, so since it says positive 4 feet per second, that tells me that Han is traveling to the east in the positive direction. So at 1 second, Han travels 4 feet. So 1 second before they meet up, I know he would be at negative 4. Okay, A says, where is each person 10 seconds before they meet up? So that's wanting to know, at 10 seconds before they meet up, what was Han's location? So Han would be at negative 40 feet. Because he's traveling to the east, so before he gets to the meetup location, he's in the west in the negative locations. Okay, for Claire, she's traveling at a velocity of negative 5 feet per second. So if we build her table with feet on top, seconds on bottom, we know she is traveling negative 5 feet per second. So 1 second is negative 5 feet. So this tells me that she's traveling to the west because after she meets up, she's in a negative location. So she's traveling west. So 1 second before they meet up, she's in a positive location, which would be at positive 5 feet per second. So 10 seconds before she meets up, she would be at what location? So before would be negative 10. So if it's 5 feet, negative 5 feet per second, then 10 seconds before they meet up, she would be at positive 50 feet. B, it says, when is each person at the position of negative 10 feet from the meeting place? Let's erase this one. So we want to know when each of them are at negative 10 feet. Let's reuse this section. So at negative 10 feet. We know Han is traveling at 4 feet per second. So to get to negative 10 feet at 4 feet per second, we have negative 10 divided by 4, which gives us negative 2.5. So that means he was at negative 10 feet at negative 2.5 seconds. For Claire, we want to know when she was at negative 10 feet, traveling at negative 5 feet per second. So that would give us positive 2 seconds. So she was there at 2 seconds. Han was there at negative 2.5 seconds. So he passed this specific location 2.5 seconds before Han and Claire met up. And then Claire passed that location 2 seconds after they passed each other. .3, a water well drilling rig has dug to a height of negative 60 feet after 1 full day of continuous use. Assuming the rig drilled at a constant rate, so there's some important information. Considering it drilled at a constant rate, what was the height of the drill after 15 hours? So first we need to know what that constant rate is. We know it dug to negative 60 feet after 1 full day, but we're trying to work with hours, so 1 full day would be 24 hours. So I know if it dug negative 60 feet in 24 hours, that means it was digging at a rate of negative 2.5 feet per hour. So this is my constant rate. Now I need to figure out how far it had drilled after 15 hours. So if it's negative 2.5 feet per hour for 15 hours. That tells me it had dug to negative 37.5 feet. Number 2, if the rig had been running constantly and is currently at a height of negative 147.5 feet, how long has the rig been running? So I have my constant of proportionality. I know my height is negative 147.5, and I know it covered negative 2.5 feet each hour. So when I divide these, it's going to tell me how many hours it had been running, which would be 59 hours. Okay, number 3, it says use a coordinate grid to show the drill's progress. Well, we know our constant of proportionality is negative 2.5. And my hours is labeled by 10, so each grid line represents 5 hours. So if it's negative 2.5 feet per hour, I know at 10 hours it was at negative 25 feet. So I would plot that point at negative 25. So 20 hours would put me at negative 50 feet. 30, I'd be at negative 75. 40 would be negative 100. And so on and so forth. And I know that it was a constant rate, which means it's a proportional relationship. So my line should pass through the origin as well as both points and continue on. So it should look like this. That's not quite the right angle. That one's not quite right either. As you can see, I missed the origin just a little bit. But your line should pass directly through the origin as well as through all points. So on number 4, it says, at this rate, how many hours will it take until the drill reaches negative 250 feet? So we can just use our constant proportionality. So negative 250 feet at negative 2.5 feet per hour. And that tells me it would take 100 hours. So that means at 100 hours, your line should pass through at negative 250 feet. And as you can see, my line is just a little bit off. Okay, so on your summary, any division problem, you can just change to multiplication. And since we know how to multiply sign numbers, we know how to divide them. So if the signs are the same, if they're both positive or both negative, your answer is going to be positive. If the signs are different, so a positive and a negative, then your answer will always be negative.